Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bridge Cultures. We are here today, 28th of April. We have a special guest with us, Ulysses Schlosser. It's correct, the surname?
Yes, Schlosser.
Schlosser, okay. So today he's going to talk about Guarani culture. He has a lot of experience in Conscientiology. You met Conscientiology in which year? Do you remember?
1984.
Okay, more than 20 years. It's a lot of time. So, welcome. Thank you for your participation, contributions here. And well, I think you can start talking about what do you do, a mini curriculum about yourself. You can tell us a little more.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I work as a volunteer here at SEAC as a researcher. I also work at UNICIM. In the International Council for Neologistics and Terminology. It is in Portuguese, we call it CINEL. I work there as a counselor and also as the coordinator of the group. I work also as a psychologist. Right now I'm working in the Secretary for Public Security in the state of Paraná, here in Brazil. And I'm very interested in many cultures, especially in the Guarani culture. I'm interested because of the parapsychic and ethical issues.
Okay. So if you want, we can start sharing your slides. Okay. We can start. So, the first question I would like to ask you.
Okay. Let me change it.
Okay.
I can change it there.
There. Okay. So, slide. Okay. This is the first one?
The first there. The first
okay.
one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So we can talk a little.
So why are you interested in the culture of Guarani? Why did you start researching about that? Did you know them? Did you meet? What is your relationship with the culture of Guarani?
There are many reasons. My family has indigenous blood. My grandmother, she had indigenous genetics. And since I was a child, I was interested, not because of that, but also I was interested in anthropology in general. I started studying anthropology when I was 10 years old. I read books. And in many different moments in my life, I got in touch with those issues. More recently, maybe 15 years ago, I started a postgraduate course on Guarani anthropology. I studied in Paraguay, and I had a very good teacher. And he was the Ministry of Culture of Paraguay. His name was Gerardo Fogel. And his mother was a Guarani woman, and his father was a German teacher. And studying with this man, I could dip a lot of knowledge and my interest. And I talked with Professor Gerardo about conscientiology, about psychic phenomena. So we could talk deeply about the references that could help us in Conscientiology to understand our connections. So we got in contact with very good references, authors, and all that happened in 2004.
Okay.
After that, I started a new research on parapsychic phenomena, and I wrote a few books. Maybe one of them will be published this year or next year about psychic phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And I started traveling and talking with other people around the world. And I found other people interested in different cultures. I especially got in contact with an organization, and they invited me to participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we could develop a new approach on the indigenous culture. So I put all together,
Mm-hmm.
and right now I could get new contacts, new connections in the university here in Foz do Iguaçu. It's the UNILA. It's a university for the integration of Latin America. It's a federal university.
Mm-hmm.
And I found there a lot of friends, teachers also interested in Guarani culture.
Yes.
And we are now talking everybody together.
Yes, they are very interesting. They have a lot of students, and well, they open the doors to the Guarani students or people that have family from Guaranis. They open.
Yes, this university.
They did a call for this
Yes,
culture.
Yes. This university was especially built to integrate people from Latin America, especially Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of students from the Guarani culture and other indigenous cultures there.
Okay. So, may I have a question? I would like some information or some dates or some information about Guarani culture and population. Where is the nation? In which countries? Because you have told about Paraguay. We are here in Brazil. The Guarani culture.
So I prepared here a few information here. Yes.
Okay.
Well, you may see here, this is a part of South America. This is a map showing rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Guarani culture, they live around maybe the second biggest river basin in South America. It's called the River Plate Basin. You may see in this picture the Paraná River. It is the main river, and around it you may see other important rivers. The Paraguay River coming from the north, and then it connects with the Paraná River.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Right here, okay? There is another important river called Uruguay River. It is in the left side of this southern Brazil. And this region between the Paraguay River and the Uruguay River,
yes,
in general, most of researchers, they think that the Guarani culture was born here, in this place, okay, because of the language. But right now, the Guaranis, they are placed in a very large region. We can see here where the population is mostly concentrated. We have here three big regions. Here, near the shore of the Brazilian shore, from the south, near the city of Porto Alegre, until the north, the city of Vitória. But there is an important concentration around São Paulo. So this is the shore here. Another population, maybe the original population, is here between the Paraguay River and the Uruguay River. This is not the biggest population, but this part, it is here in Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. And another part is in Bolivia, near the Andes. Okay, most of Guarani are located here in Bolivia because they are looking for protection in this part. Okay, let's see right now another picture. In this picture, you may find the number of villages. This is a picture. I took it from the internet. The address I can show you in a few minutes, but the name of this work is called Mapa Guarani Digital. It's a website developed here in Brazil, and it is a dynamic, it has a dynamic image. If you look closer in this map, the number of villages, they will spread like this. I will try to do it, changing the picture. You see, if you move the image in the internet, you may locate each village. It's a very interesting research.
Yes.
So here,
how many?
Yes. This is the number of villages, not the number of the population. Okay.
A lot of...
This is the part near Bolivia. Another part here, near our region here in Foz do Iguaçu. This darker green here is Argentina. Argentina, okay. Paraguay. This part is in Brazil, Mato Grosso do Sul, the state of Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná, Santa Catarina, Rio Grande do Sul. And here, Argentina. This is a very important region in Argentina. It's called Misiones, here in this part. Okay. Well, we are now looking closer here in Misiones. Closer. And if you look here, in the upper part, a yellow region, it's called Ava Guarani do Ocói. This is the village. I visited this village many times, and it is about 60 kilometers from here, where we are right now. Yes, from this place. And this is the image, the draft of the village. Here in the center is water, and this village has two parts, the right part and the left part. And there we are, Jeffrey, me, and my wife, in the entrance of the village. The name of this village is Tecoha Ocói. It's a protected place. It's protected by the government. If you want, you should not get in. There is here a message telling that you are not allowed to get in. But I have many friends there, and they invited me many times. And Jeffrey, Adriana, and I, we went there for a ceremony just there. Okay, it was a meeting between a lot of shamans from South America. Jeffrey participated there, me and my wife. It was a spiritual ritual.
Wow.
So we went there inside the village. Let me stop here. In general, I work with them. I help them with many political, cultural issues. I work as a psychologist inside a penitentiary, in prison. And there is a special problem. The brother of the political leader of this village, he is now inside the prison where I work. And this is another reason because I have a lot of contact with them. So I try to help them with many problems between our culture, between the culture in the city, and the culture in the village. This is part of the history, okay?
Okay, do you know the language, the Guarani language?
No, I don't know.
You speak in Portuguese with them?
Yes, they speak in Portuguese, yes.
So they speak Guarani and Portuguese, and this culture. Well,
they speak Portuguese, they speak Guarani, and very, very little Spanish.
The people who live in Paraguay or Uruguay, I imagine.
They speak Guarani. Guarani and Spanish, but mostly Guarani.
I think it's very interesting because in Brazil, the official language is the Portuguese. But Guarani, it's a language that Guarani culture speaks, but it is not official. But for example, in Paraguay, Guarani is official language. I don't know if in Uruguay is, but it seems that in Brazil, they don't value a lot the culture. What do you think about that? Do you think Brazil value the
it's not,
why does it happen?
It's easy to understand. When the Spanish people and Portuguese people came for the first time in South America, and they arrived here about 1,400, the years of 1,400, 500, and after 150 years, they killed a lot of indigenous. When they arrived, the indigenous population in this region, the Guarani people, maybe they were about 1 million people. There is a lot of controversy about the numbers by that time. I read a few speculations about 2 million people and about 500,000 people. So we are not sure how many Indians lived by that time. Right now, in the whole South America, the Guaranis, we have about 208,000 people. 280,000 people. And during the first century, they killed most of them, a lot of them. And for instance, in the region of São Paulo, near the river Paranapanema, they disappeared completely. Maybe there 200,000 people were killed. And in the south, most of the Guaranis, they were made slaves, but they reacted. And the Indian slaves in Brazil, they didn't work. And because of that, the explorers, they didn't want to work with the indigenous anymore, because the indigenous people, they didn't work very well as slaves. They died, they reacted, they were not pacific. They didn't accept it to be slaves.
Okay.
And because of that, Portugal began to bring slaves from Africa.
Okay, because they were
Yes.
more passive.
Yes. But the main point is that after maybe 200 years, the Catholics, especially the Jesuits, how to say in English, Jesuits, the Jesuits, and they started to try to educate the Indians in the Catholic ideology and religion.
Yes.
And a lot of Guaranis, they accepted the Catholic religion. But other groups, they didn't accept, and they went back to the jungle. So in this movement, the Guarani group, they began to be separated. So this name, Guarani, it's not an original name. The Guaranis later, in the earlier times, they didn't call themselves Guaranis. No, they called them only as Ava. That means men, people. They were the Ava people. And when the groups began to move, and they were trying to escape from domination, and they began to get new denominations from the Portuguese people and the Spanish soldiers. For instance, the Guarani group that went away, who didn't want the Catholic ideology, they were called the Kaiowá, because they were hidden inside the jungle. And in Guarani language, Kaiowá means that one who goes inside the jungle, you see? And they began to get different names for different groups. Today you have a very important group like Mumbia Guarani, Ava Guarani, and Kaiowá, and many other different groups. Because of that, your question, you asked it. What did you ask of me?
I asked if you think that Brazil
about the language,
value the language.
Okay.
Why it's not an official language?
You
Why?
see, because of the relation, the relation
country.
with the people was based in killing, slavery, and a kind of exploitation. It was not a friendship relationship, you see. And the Guaranis, they went away to other regions, especially to Bolivia. Right now, the Bolivian government, they accept and they take care for very different groups, original different groups, indigenous different groups. In Bolivia, for instance, they have right now there 36 different official languages in Bolivia, because the philosophy of the government from Evo Morales is to respect the differences between original people. In Brazil, our culture, it comes from domination and killing different people. It was the movement of colonization. And the movement of colonization, in general, they don't accept the original languages from the land. So the predominant language may be from the strong dominator. That's it.
Okay.
Okay?
Understand now. Only to, I think it's interesting people know about that because last week we were discussing about that, and you told me that Jesuits were partners from Guarani. So in one moment, the Jesuits were friends and helped Guaranis from the slave, and they wanted to respect the Jesuits. I don't know if I cannot remember, but you told me that Jesuits were in favor of Jesuits.
Yes. It was a very difficult moment. Let me show you here the problem.
I think it's very interesting.
Well, in 1494, Portugal and Spain, they decided to separate the land. They create a division in the world that would be explored by Portugal and the part of the world explored by Spain. And they signed a treatise, Tratado, a treatise. It was called the Tordesillas Treatise in 1494. But after that time, they began to find more land, more people here. And in 1750, they wrote another treatise. It was called the Madrid Treatise. And this division in the south created a trouble. If you can see this picture, the darker gray was the part of Portugal. And the gray here, clear, was the part of Spain. And you can also see here the old line of Tordesillas. This line here from north to south, straight line, it is the old treatise. And the new treatise is the difference between the dark gray and the clear gray here. You see? But there in the south, if you can identify this region from Argentina here, let me see. Here, if you can see here this arrow, here is the Uruguay River. That's why I wanted to show you at first where is the Uruguay River. And in this place, this division between Portugal and Spain, it created a very big problem. So the dark gray is from Portugal and the clear gray is from Spain. But right here, where is the mouse? Right here in this part, the Jesuits, they built a lot of churches here in this part, in the part of Spain. But they wanted to be closer to Portugal. And because of this treaties between Spain and Portugal, the Jesuits, together with the Guaranis, they started a war. This war took 3 years between the Indians, together with the Jesuits, against the Spanish and the Portuguese both together. Because the Jesuits, they wanted to create an independent state, different from Portugal and different from Spain. That was the problem. And this war, it was called the Guarani War. It took 3 years. And that was a very interesting movement. Somebody wants to ask something here. Yes. Because it seems that the Jesuits, they wanted to protect the Guaranis, but they really wanted to convert them to the Catholic religion. They didn't want really to protect their culture. So it was an ideological war.
Okay. Okay. What date is this war?
The Guarani War.
When?
In 1753 until 1756. During 3 years.
Okay, perfect. And now I would like to know more about the values of the Guaranis.
Yes.
Can you?
This is the best part. If I could think as an anthropologist, I would try to observe the characteristics that beyond any new influence, those characteristics that may resist. For instance, when I get in contact with the Guaranis, I can observe that they keep behaviors that the Catholic don't know. So they resist. For instance, it's amazing that the Guarani people, they have a parapsychic culture. I call it invisible culture. And the people from religion, they are not able to perceive or recognize those traits. And if you can imagine that the Guarani people, they were killed by the soldiers from Spain, they were killed by the first explorers from Brazil, they were dominated by the Jesuits, and they keep a lot of original traits. And the Guaranis, they are a very pacific culture, and they have very strong values in terms of liberty, friendship. They love the forest. And those values, they didn't change through all these years of suffering. You see? We have a lot of very important researchers, especially beginning in the 19th century. I have a few pictures here that I may show you and talk you about those researchers. And I can also tell something about the Guarani traits. It's working? Actually.
Second, porque tenemos que compartir un segundo.
Sí.
Vamos a compartir de la vuelta. Try again. We are showing the slides. But
No, it's not moving.
you are seeing the map, no?
I think I can change the image there. I know how it's works.
Slides. No.
Well,
Here.
you can see the Bertoni picture. Well, this man, he was, he came from Suez, Moisés Santiago Bertoni. His name was Mose Giacomo Bertoni, and he was an Italian-speaking scientist. he spoke Italian. And he came to Brazil to work as a naturalist. He loved the jungle, and he lived very close to this place where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he lived about 20 kilometers from this
Yeah.
place. He lived in the jungle, in the other side of the Paraná River.
Mm-hmm.
I went there many times.
I was there.
Yes. This man, he wrote maybe more than 30 books, many books. And he wrote very original books on the Guarani cultures. He has a lot of books. Here are 3 books. I consider this one, those 3 books, maybe the most important on the Guarani culture. And I'm working right now on a project to translate those books from Spanish to English and Guarani language. Indeed, the project I'm working right now is to translate the 10 most important books on Guarani culture, to spread those books in universities. This work we intend to develop together with the United Nations and the organization which I work together. It's the APGC, Alternative Perspectives and Global Concerns. And I made copies from those books to work on translations. This is the major work from Bertoni. It's called La Civilización Guarani. Yeah. It's a book on health, medicine, botanics, and also about ethics. Here inside the book you may find chapters on moral behavior of the Guaranis. It has very interesting descriptions. And those books were published in 1927. He wrote those books during many, many years. And Bertoni has another very interesting book. You may observe the title. It's about the prehistory on the Guarani cultures. So he tries to speculate and study many indicators that could be speculated before the Spanish and the Portuguese people came to South America. Mm-hmm. So Bertoni tried to speculate on those traits. And also he developed a study on language, because the Guarani language could influence people even in the Central America, in the Antilles, how to say it in English, Antilles, yeah? Antilles, in English, Cuba, Antilles in English. So the Guarani language has influence even in that region. So the influence of the Guarani language in the Americas, it has a very large range, and we don't know it exactly. And Bertoni, he was interested in those subjects, and he wrote a book about it. Mm-hmm. And we could say that he was the first important researcher on that subject. Okay. But maybe so far, the most important researcher, his name is Leon Cadogan. Let me see. Yes, that's it. Leon Cadogan, he was born in Paraguay, and he lived a few years after Bertoni. Cadogan, he was born in Paraguay, and he died in Paraguay. But his family came from Australia. And it's very interesting because his mother was an Australian activist, and she was activist in a kind of racist group in Australia, and they came to South America to try to develop that kind of culture, a kind of socialist culture. But Leo Cadogan, the son, he started to give a lot of attention to the social relations with the original people in that region, and he developed a very original work. He really could listen and feel the people, the original people. And Cadogan has a huge work, very important work, and very original, because he grew up in that region. He lived together with the indigenous people. And he even tried to give them voice. And because of that, he got in trouble. Okay? Cadogan, he was especially interested in the language and also in the political organization of the Guarani. He has a lot of books about the literature and how the Guarani express themselves through languages. Well, the Guarani people, they are not originally people with a written culture. And they learn to write together with the Jesuits. They didn't write before. But after that, the language, using the language with the Catholic people, they started writing. They learned the alphabet and they started writing. And so Cadogan, he was trying to understand the oral tradition together with the new written learning. Well, after Cadogan, we may observe Pierre Clastres. Pierre Clastres was a French anthropologist, and he was also very interested in terms of politics and how could a very developed society be so strong without strong leaders. So he observed that the Guarani people, they have a very strong culture, even conservative. They didn't lose their traditions easily. It was very difficult to change the Guarani tradition. And they didn't have leaders, strong leaders. They had the Guarani. Each group has a spiritual leader. And they keep their tradition, trying to communicate the spiritual teachings, the spiritual knowledge from one little group to another little group. But we may say that the Guaranis, they have a kind of parapsychic school. Okay. So they teach each other. The spiritual leader in each small group, he teaches the children the psychic abilities. And because of that, the Guarani people, they understand that other people isn't able to understand their perception, how they see the world. Because they can feel energy, they use clairvoyance, they have experiences with out-of-body experience. And Pierre Clastres, he observed this kind of characteristic. And he wrote an important work about a kind of world that the Guarani people used to describe. It's called the earth without evil. The earth without evil. You see? In Portuguese, we call it a terra sem mal. And a lot of people think that the earth without evil is a place. Even the Guarani people, they look for this place. and they built roads inside the jungle to find this place. But the spiritual leaders, they know that it's not a physical place. The earth without evil, it can be understood as an extra physical dimension. I learned about that together with my professor, my teacher, Paravision. He lived together also with the Guaranis, and he was a friend from Proexis. And he told me about this conception where you may consider the earth without evil as an extra physical dimension.
Okay.
And this is very, very important to understand that.
For them, they can see spirits in another dimension.
Yes.
They affect another dimensions. They are very parapsychic.
Yes, you see, the Guarani
they
people
interact with energy,
imagine
with
that.
nature.
Okay, imagine that. During 4 centuries, they were killed. They were made slaves. The land was stolen. They suffered a lot, but they keep a kind of school, even without the knowledge from the Catholic leaders. So the Catholic people try, even today, to educate them in the Catholic ideology. And the Guarani, they keep that school like a secret school. You see, even today, I know that because I have friends there, and they told me that, the Indian leaders, they know that.
They work with energies.
Yes. So I can tell you something about this. Let me show you here. You see, this conference, I organized this conference 2 years ago. This conference is about anti-imprisonment. It's a special philosophy, new political philosophy to use against the possibility of a person to commit a crime and to go to prison, okay? And we organized this conference in the Federal University, UNILA, together with a AGC. Especially, I invited to present a conference there, my friend, let me see, where is the photo here? Oh, here. Here. You can see this man. He is an Indian man. He is the political leader from the Guaranis in our region here. And I invited him to talk about how the Guaranis, how do they take care each other since the childhood, in order to avoid that a person could commit a crime. So they don't have prisons in the Guarani culture. They don't have crime. When an individual does something wrong, they try to talk with him, they try to be kind with that person, they try to understand, they try to take care of the person until the person can again be part of the group. And that's very hard to understand. It's not easy to understand how they are able to do that. So I invited this leader to explain to us how do they work. And during his speech, he told us how he uses his parapsychism. He tries to use clairvoyance every day. Every day he works with energy. He described during the conference how he works with parapsychism today. And nobody knows about that. The Catholics don't know about that. Even the people in the university, they don't know about that. He decided to talk about that because before the conference,
Yes.
I became friend with him, and he could rely on me. And so he started talking how they work, and we became friends, you see. And what we could say, they resist, the culture resists, the parapsychism resists. They have a very strong parapsychic culture to resist through all those centuries in this situation, you see. And in Conscientiology, in our community, we see the difficulty to install a psychic culture between us. And they resist with this culture for centuries. You see, they move from each generation to another generation, communicating those abilities. It's something that you will not find this kind of knowledge written in the books, because the Guaranis, they don't talk about it. They don't talk to foreign people about that.
Why do you think
it's a kind of invisible culture. No, they are not afraid about that. They are lucid because they know that other people don't understand. So they simply don't talk. But if they perceive that you understand, they will talk with you.
And what do they think when they die? They think they go to another dimension? Do they think about reincarnation?
Yes, reincarnation is something not clear to them, not clear. I could observe that they have different levels of understanding, even between them. Okay, they have different abilities, different levels of understanding the phenomena. And my personal experience is very close to one village here in Brazil. I have a project. Let me show you here some projects of mine. Here. These are my personal projects in terms of research, okay? Here in yellow, we have the projects which I'm working on, the Guarani issue. The first one is to translate the 10 major works about the Guaranis. I have right now a project to write a new book on ethics and parapsychism in the Guarani world. And I intend to organize an expedition to Asunción in Paraguay to meet this man. His name is Bartolomeu Miliar. Bartolomeu Miliar, I consider him the fourth major researcher on Guarani culture. I spoke earlier about Bertoni, Cadogan, and Clastres. The fourth is Miliar. Miliar is alive. He created a very important institute in Paraguay, in the university there, the main university. Now in the world, we could say that this institution is the main institution on Guarani culture in the world. And Miliar is the coordinator. He's a very old man. And maybe about 8 years ago, Miliar came here in Siaec. I got in contact with him. He's a very close friend from Conscientiologist, a friend of us. His name is Herman.
Colombian.
The second name.
But he's from Colombia.
I forgot. I'll try to remember the second name. Herman is a close friend to me too, from Miliar, Bartolomeu Miliar. So he studies history. Historian. So Milia is an anthropologist. Milia is a Jesuit anthropologist. He has religious influence. And as a religious man, Milia also, he is not able to be sensitive to the parapsychic world of the Guaranis. Yes.
It's not open.
Yes, yes. He doesn't know about that. He doesn't know. But even though I intend to go there and to talk with him, with Milia. But I wanted to talk to you about the next project. The next project is an expedition to Bolivia to meet there the original groups that went there looking for protection to keep their original culture. With those groups, I expect to find a more original parapsychic culture there in Bolivia.
Okay, it seems there's a question here.
Do you know if exists some connection between this culture of Guarani and the Cariman culture?
Cariman?
Because I heard time ago with Professor Waldo saying about Cariman Indigenous.
It's a Guarani group.
Is that the same Guarani group?
Yes, the Guarani has a lot of different little groups, many, dozens of little groups. And the Guarani culture is the dominant culture in a very big region in South America. Inside the Guarani culture, you may find different political organizations. When you say Guarani, you are talking about the language and the general culture. But the small groups, they have a lot of different names. You see?
So in this case, the Cariman is
it's a Guarani group.
Yes,
yes, yes. Well, I wanted to talk about this project, about the expedition to Bolivia. Yes, we're talking together with the professors here in our local university. I could find there a few professors interested in moving there, and I would like to go there together with my Guarani friends here from Foz do Iguaçu. So we could travel to meet new Guarani groups in Bolivia. So, and the objective is to look for original culture. And there is something very bad in the Guarani memory. And in general, this kind of culture, they keep the culture through memory and through oral tradition. But what happens right now? The leader from the local group, for instance, he doesn't know where his grandmother came from. They lose their memory, you see. This is a very serious problem. And they are right now getting a lot of influence from the city, from the university, and they are moving away from their original culture. For instance, the leader from our local village here, he's studying medicine in the university, you see, and they are changing the interest. Even the children, they are right now, many of them interested in studying in the city, you see. But the spiritual leader, I talked with him, and we are worrying about the situation. So we know that they have a very deep culture on Parapsychism, and we would like to maybe create a new school inside the Guarani village to keep that knowledge. So we are talking together, and because of that, we want to go to Bolivia to make contact with original groups. So we could retrieve original knowledge.
Okay.
This is the
If
project.
you realize you were talking about 4 people that were studying Bertoni's,
Cadogan, Bertoni,
Cadogan.
Clastris, and yeah.
They were from outside. They were not from here, and they wrote down a lot of things. But I think
Yes.
it is important people from Guarani culture write down their own history.
Yes, that's it.
The point.
That's it. We were working. Yes.
The school can help about that. It's another question.
Maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the group karmic situation with the Guarani people, could you comment a little bit about where do you think they're situated in terms of the group karmic? Yeah. Group karmic phase. The recomposition or victimization or
group karmic.
Yeah,
group karmic.
Yeah,
group karmic.
Exactly.
I was understanding comic. The group karmic situation.
It's not a comic.
No.
I don't know if you thought about that.
Yes. Well,
what do you think about?
Well, if maybe we could develop a kind of research on that issue. And maybe a very good research could be if we can go inside the villages and feel what's happening and how do they live in peace with their culture. If we can observe that they don't develop hate, we may understand that in terms of holokarmic, in terms of holokarmic view, maybe they can move forward in peace, in the way, maybe not changing the way they live. If you can ask about any kind of interprisonment, I don't feel that they have this kind of problem. If you can also think in terms of victimization, I don't feel that when I am together with them. Even with all that suffering that they had, they live in peace. They live in peace.
Like, how do they deal with the suffering? You know,
Yes.
For hundreds of years, they would have been in the situation where they would have received,
Yes.
persecution.
This is a very interesting issue because they don't react. They don't have hate. They don't want to change the world. They want to love the forest. They want to give freedom for the children. And for instance, Bertoni, in his first book, he observed that mother and father, they didn't talk about obligations to the children. The children, they grew up inside the forest, completely free. And I could observe this issue personally. I had experience to be inside the jungle with them, with the sisters from the leader, the political leader. I was together with 5 women and a little girl, maybe 4-year-old girl, little. And this girl, she was moving alone inside the forest. I saw that. And I asked the mother, don't you worry about your daughter to be lost here in the forest? She looked at me and she didn't understand my question.
Yeah.
And she asked me, but why are you worrying about this? We don't worry about that. She will never get lost here. You see? And I started understanding the value of freedom in their education. This value is a deep value, freedom in their education. I don't know exactly how to translate this expression into English. In Portuguese, they used to say, vai de cada In English, it should be, depends on each one. All the time, they use this expression when we ask them questions about their way of life. If we ask them about their way of life, they will answer, oh, depends on each one. You see? So each one may decide what they want to do, everything. And so each person has this deep value to decide their lives. If one individual wants to leave the village, he may live. No problem. I could observe all that personally. It's a great value, and they are very lucid about this kind of value, and they know that they are different from, for instance, our culture in the cities. So they know that they are completely free. This is very interesting, very interesting.
And are they, like, for example, it seems like their cultures, they live together in communities, or is there a lot of interaction between the Guaranis and
yes, they have a lot of interactions between different Indian groups. They travel through Brazil, through other countries. They participate right now in political movements in Brazil. They discuss together. Personally, I was together with them during meetings with leaders from other groups, and they like to talk with different groups, even different from the Guarani groups. They love to talk. And before, I don't know exactly, this is a kind of legend that they built roads through South America to move and travel inside the continent. You see, so they are used to get in touch with different people and keep their way of thinking. That's very interesting. Because all of that, I think that I am not wrong if I could think that in terms of ethics, maybe they are in a very high position in our planet. So they are very aware of that condition. They are able to understand the problems of other cultures. They can discuss it. I had this experience talking personally with them. So when I think about them, I don't think that I should help them. I think that I can learn with them. You see? If I can think in terms of helping the Guaranis, it should be talking about their values, writing books, asking them what they think that we should do about them. So if you can imagine the Catholics didn't ask them what to do. They tried to impose the religion. When I'm talking to them, I ask them, what do you think what do you think I should do together with you? You see, it's different because they have a very good discernment. And I would say that this is the most strong impact that maybe a woman or a man from the city could have. When you go there and you find people with a high level of discernment, and they are indigenous people, yes. That's a very strong impact for us. If you really have the opportunity to talk with them, they have a very high level in terms of discernment. For instance, if we have time, I can give one example. I was talking about the man that is in prison together with me where I work. I work inside a prison, okay? And there is a Guarani there.
That's what I see.
And this Guarani, he didn't commit the crime. We know that he's not guilty, this Guarani. And we are talking together in the village about this problem. And the spiritual leader, he was together with us, and we talked about 1 hour. And the spiritual leader, he didn't spoke one word. He was calm all the time. And when we finished talking, we asked the spiritual leader, what did he think about that situation? And he answered, I will pray for everyone. You see? And we are talking about a man who we were all worrying about. And the spiritual leader answered, I will pray for everyone inside the prison. You see? He was worried about everyone, not only about that Guarani. You see?
So we can learn a lot of things about them, but do you think the most important thing is the ethics?
Ethics.
And another thing, the interaction with nature, with
interaction with nature.
With nature.
Yes, they are specialists in terms of botanics. They are like scientists. They know each plant. They know each function of the plant for medicine. They live like physicians, you see. They have a very good knowledge in terms of medicine, botanics, ethics, politics, relationship. That's it.
Here, we are in Fodiguafu in the Cosmopolis. Yeah. I know that here there was a Guarani.
Everywhere here, yes. The Guaranis
Before
were
we
everywhere
were here,
They lived everywhere in this region.
They used to live here.
Yes.
So what is the interaction we can have with these Guaranis? They are here physically,
yes, it's true,
or not?
There is some stones and some objects they told they found.
Well, the best part of it is if you may use clairvoyance, you may see them. They're here. They work together with us.
So
during our works in group, parapsychic work, group work that we have, we call it dynamicas. The Guarani work there. If you may use clairvoyance, you may see. It's very interesting to see that together with other people who may use clairvoyance too. And we may talk about that. Fabio was talking here about the Karima. Professor Waldo Vieira, when we came here in SEC for the first time, he talked about that a very important Guarani group, extra-physical Guarani group. They came here and they gave their permission. And they were welcoming us to build the SEC here. Professor Waldo told us this story. You were talking about that, yeah?
Yeah.
About the Karima.
That's kind of different.
What?
Usually the groups are kind of the tribal groups in the area kind of against, any changes.
Yes.
But this is something else.
Yes. So right now we got a special invitation to participate in the village. Our people here from the Cognopolis to develop their spiritual ritual there in the village, in the Guarani village. And we are inviting them to come here to SEAC to develop experiments here together with us. Last year, we developed a little experiment inside the Ecoplanetarium. We were there together with Alcir Alves, our Epicom,
Yes.
together with the spiritual the Guarani spiritual leader and the political leader, we were all together inside the ecoplanetarium, and we made there a small experiment. And now we're talking about the possibility of growing with those experiments together. Imagine an ecoplanetarium section with half laboratory with the Guaranis and another half with the Conscientiologists, and we could work together and develop our schools together, maybe. But the Guaranis, their ritual is very ancient. It's an ancient ritual. They use a lot of smoke. They dance together. So their tradition is an ancient tradition. So we should understand this part of the form. We could say the form. It has a ritual. So it's very interesting if we can observe the essence of the practice they develop. And most of all, if we can talk to them in a closer way, you see, íntimo, uma conversa mais íntima, an intimate conversation. So that should be a very interesting research for us.
Okay.
So I am interested in writing a book on this subject. You see, I'd like to really develop this approach on ethics and parapsychism in the Guarani world. I don't know the title of the book, but I got the permission from my friends from the village to talk with them, to write about the subject. But I don't know exactly when I will be able to do that. But
it's something that you want to do because it's part of your existential program, something that you want to...
Yes, I love the forest, and I also develop a kind of approach that I call it paraphenomenological methodology. So I'm trying to develop categories of analysis that will help me to observe and analyze what happens with them. So I try to put all together a parapsychic conscientiological methodology to observe and describe a different culture.
Exactly. Because when you respect the other culture, when you interact with them, it's...
Yes, if we have friendship.
Exactly.
If we have friendship, it's much easier. The most important in this case, you see, respect, I think that is not enough. Respect is not enough. You may respect and you may be apart. I respect. It's not enough.
It's respect and
the best part is to develop friendship. If we are friends, if we cooperate, if our values grow together, so we may create another thing. We're trying to move this way, to develop friendship with them. It's different because they are not animals in the zoo.
Exactly.
You understand that? When I go there, I observe that. I have a lot of friends that, and they would like to go there to see them.
They are curious.
Like animals
in
the zoo. You see?
Yeah.
I don't go there to see them. I like to go there to see my friends.
Yeah.
See? If I have my sons, I'd like my sons to grow there together with their sons in the forest. You see?
Yes.
Playing together, the kids playing together. I love them. They are my friends.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, and you vision because many of us don't know much about this culture. So I think every one of us needs to know what is
we can learn
our responsibility.
Yes,
what
we can
is
learn
your responsibility with this culture we have? If we did something in the past,
maybe if you were a Spanish soldier, maybe you have a responsibility. I don't have.
Exactly. That it's important to know our past.
Yes.
We have a link.
Especially the Spanish soldiers, the Catholic Jesuits.
Yeah.
Those people may have some worries about them.
He's saying because I am Spanish, so I have a little of responsibility,
Yes.
maybe. But for that reason,
Yes, but
everyone.
if we understand the move and the origin of the Guarani people, we may understand why they are so clean, why they are so light. Because probably they moved from the north to the south, coming for thousands of years, and they didn't find other people to fight. You see, when they came to this land, probably they were the first humans to come to this place, and they didn't have to fight for the land. You understand? It's very different if you imagine what happened there in Europe, in Africa, in other places, where people used to fight for the territory. And this kind of problem here in South America, it's not a hard problem for them, especially in the south of South America, in this part. The problem began when the Spanish and the Portuguese people came here, you see. So they have a very peaceful culture. It's very interesting, you may feel that. So their holokarmic problem is different from ours, very different. You may feel that when you look at them.
But do you, if you consider other lives,
yes,
it could be in the Guarani culture. Some soldiers from the past.
Let me tell you, we had the same feeling when the people from Finland, they came here to Zurich, and I had the opportunity to be together with them and together with Professor Waldo in the auditorium, maybe about 30 people. And during the speech, Professor Waldo stopped and asked them, well, what's happening with you? You are so quiet. It seems that you don't have a problem. So the Finnish people, they live very far in the north. People who live there, very far, in the cold land, in general, nobody wants to live there. So they may live in peace there. Okay. You understand? When you go to a very distant region and you live alone, you may live in peace. And they live here in South America, maybe for 1,000 years. We don't know exactly how much time, yes. If we consider that South America, the first humans may have come here about 10,000 years ago. The Guarani culture, we could imagine something about 3,000 years, 5,000, I don't know. And they are living in peace. Such a long time here. It's something different to think about.
I had the information that Professor Waldo said sometime that some of us had a life here, thousands of years ago, I don't remember, 10,000, which number was 1,000 as indigenous people, and this is the motive, the reason that some of us have affinity with this place.
Maybe.
I don't know if people who are listening to us, they listen. Fabio was talking about Professor Waldo Vieira, that he told that some of us have affinity, has affinity with Guarani culture because we were from that culture. We were Guaranis in the past life. 1,000 years.
Well, you see, the Guarani people, they are peaceful people. Other people who lived around them, they were not peaceful. Especially in Brazil, we have a lot of warriors groups in the northeast from Brazil, in the northwestern from South America, very big warriors and strong groups in South America. The Guaranis, they were peaceful all the time. Indeed, they participated in war, but that was a kind of resistance against the Spanish domination, you see. And that was for a very short time. But we must consider that they lived in the Guaranis, they lived in the south, and the warriors, indigenous, they lived around them in other places. That's very interesting also to consider.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we are in time then. Would you like to finish with any sentence, anything that you want to finish your presentation about Cultura Guarani, something that you wanted to share with us? Something that you want to...
I think it should be very interesting if you could have the opportunity to get in touch with them. This is very important. If you have this opportunity to get in touch with them.
How can we do that?
Yes. We can get in touch with them.
Okay.
It's very interesting to talk with them and to get new friends.
Okay.
So try to get new friends.
Okay. Okay. So that's a compromise. How can you say? We can say that it's a compromise.
Compromise.
So we are.
It depends on you.
So here
it depends on you. You're free. You are free.
Okay. So
you can do that.
That we are going to follow your advice.
You may find new friends.
Okay. So thank you very much. Okay, Ulysses, for your presentation. It was very interesting. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about it. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation online. And we are going to put in the YouTube to share with other people. So thank you very much. Next month, we have another country. We are going to debate about Germany. So a very interesting country, very different from this theme. So thank you very much. We will see next month. Bye. The person who is going to present, Ana Catherine and Eduardo Vicenzi. So see you there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ulysses.
Thank you.